Hi, I'm Judith Ortego. I'm with Carlsbad Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm the Information and Education Specialist here at the office. We are located at 3219 South Canal, which is on the Pecos Highway, just by the old Queen Oil truck stop. We are the conservation district in southern Eddy County. We have a lot of projects on the ground where we do everything from flood control, brush control, and some water conservation projects in the urban environment. There's an office of 3 of us here. Judy Bach is our district manager. I'm the information and education, and Nancy Painter is our administrative assistant. I'm just about to go out and check on a project out in Avalon, Alacron. If you want to come with me, we'll be ready to go. Okay, Nance, we're on our way. Yeah. Oh, we're just trying to pull out on the Pecos Highway right now, and as per usual, there's traffic coming in just the right increments to not get out on the road. We'll be on our way just as soon as we get rolling. The district started in 1947 here, and we encompass basically the south half of Eddy County, from about Brantley Lake down, and we have a small portion of Ortego County on its eastern border. We do collect a mill levy throughout the district. It winds up being about $250,000 a year, and with that money we use to basically act as a seed source for finding grants and acquiring federal funding that really funds the majority of our projects. We do all kind of projects all over the county, the county and within our whole watershed area, as a part of the Lower Pecos River Watershed Alliance, and through joint powers agreements with some of the various soil and water conservation districts within our whole area. We do a lot of urban water conservation projects, doing some xeric landscaping stuff. We've done some in Artesia and have done some out at the sports complex. We do windbreaks. We've done one out at the Civic Center and one at the Boy Scout Aquatic Camp over here on the river. And we try to do as much urban projects as we can, so that the people who we collect our mill levy from that live in town realize that we're here for them as well as for our rural neighbors. We do a tremendous amount of brush control projects and soil erosion projects and flood control projects throughout our district, and that's what we're going to go and look at right now, is the Avalon Alacron one. That project has been in the making for many years, trying to help with the flooding that happens north of town in the La Herda area. Well, we're crossing the truck route north of Carlsbad, and we're actually in the heart of the Avalon Alacron watershed right now. This is the draws that caused the real catastrophic flooding in La Herda back in 2004, and that sparked a renewed interest in trying to do some flood control work for the people who live in La Herda to help them negate some of the flooding issues that they have. So the district has applied for some capital outlay funding in order to do some studies on how we could put in some flood control, low dam height flood control diversions down here in this area. And we did a request for proposal and with Pyatt Engineering and Pyatt Surveying to come out here and look at the entire watershed and see where we could put in these low water diversions in order to help mitigate some of the flooding in the area and some of the sediment and silt loading and erosion in this part of the world. They came up with 4 subbasins, and each subbasin had about 3 of these low water structure dams in them. The biggest basin would be Basin A, and that's basically what we're going to be working in now. After doing some further study on these dams, they would all be less than 6 feet high and impound less than 10 acre-feet of water, and they were going to completely discharge all their water within 72 hours. That way they would fall below the constrictions of the Dam Safety Bureau. They wouldn't be considered hazardous dams. Stillwater Engineering was absorbed Pyatt's Engineering, and they continued doing these studies for us, and we came to find out that each one of these diversions that we were going to have in these basins were going to run in excess of $1 million a piece to build. And at the district, we're really concerned with getting the most use out of taxpayers' money as we possibly can. And we simply knew we couldn't put in $3 million structures in each one of these basins. So we started looking for alternative methods of helping with the flood control and sediment loading and entire watershed improvement in the area. And we talked with Don Allen of Allen Conservation Service, and he also works with our sister districts in northern Eddy County of Penasco and Central Valley. And he helped us develop these V-mesh wire diversions that we installed up here in basically what we call Basin A. They're small, 18-inch tall V-mesh wire fences that slow and spread the flood waters in small events and help with sediment loading and promote grass growth within the drainage, which will in turn help slow flood waters and whatnot to help mitigate some of the flooding that will happen downstream. Now, in the case of another 100-year flood, no, they're not going to do a lot. But in the more frequent, less than 25-year events, they'll help slow some of the water that's coming down and have a more diminished impact on the area around La Herda. The road's pretty terrible out here because this is in kind of a remote place. We're north of town. The entire watershed that we're working in, this is since expanded from these 4 small basins identified by Pyatt's Engineering to a 6,000 acre watershed improvement project where we've been doing upland brush control in conjunction with the BLM in order to help with, well, the whole watershed improvement, helping establish better native grass stands which help absorb water and get more water into the ground instead of running down the draws and causing erosion. So we're coming up on our first diversion right here, and we'll inspect how it's been doing in the year since it's been put in. The majority of this project is located on BLM lands, and BLM has worked tremendously well in conjunction with us on this project. They've done the environmental impact statement on it and put in place the easements and the right-of-ways that we needed to put these small fences in so that we could help with the flooding within the whole area. This is the first flood diversion fence that we put in. I think this one's just a little over 300 feet long. These fences are made out of a V-mesh wire. They're about 18 inches tall with a 6-inch apron that's on the upstream side of the fence. Now, you can see that they're made out of T-post and Schedule 80 pipe. Each one of these Schedule 80 pieces of pipe are 4 feet long, and they've been driven into the ground 36 inches. The T-posts are traditional 5.5 foot tall T-posts that haven't been cut off, and you can see they've been driven into the ground 18 inches high as well. That makes for an incredibly sturdy structure. Now, these fences are all on a grade line where the water We come up to them and it'd be 18 inches high uniformly across the entire structure. That helps slow the floodwaters down and spread them out so that they're not causing as much erosion and channeling as they would normally. We picked strategic locations like at the very bottom of this playa lake so that the water had plenty of room to back up and slow down and spread out. As you can see from this higher perspective on this lowest diversion fence that we have, Don Allum came in and he surveyed the entire area and determined where these mesh wire diversions would be the most beneficial for the watershed. And in this particular point, there's very little grade upstream. And this 18-inch tall fence right here, when it's full and floodwater comes and spreads out along the entire length of the fence, it'll actually hold water all the way back up to this well pad up here. And as you can see by the area that encompasses, that's quite a bit of floodwater that's being dissipated and slowed down before it can get downstream. We're about to check the longest of the diversions, which is this one, this mesh wire diversion 2. This diversion is 906 feet long, approximately. And if this diversion spreads the water that comes from all of these hills right back behind of us. When this diversion and the one that we just looked at are full, it would almost look like a lake with 2 tiers when it's holding back the water. So let's take a hike down the length of this diversion so you can see exactly how long it is. And you can tell on this one too that the fence is about perfectly level the entire length of the fence. So for 906 feet, this fence has very, very little change in elevation so that we can spread the water over a tremendous area. The entire project that we've worked on so far has cost about $167,000 to date, is the money we've expended on our whole watershed improvement project. That includes the studies that we've done with Pyatt and Stillwater Engineering, the brush control, upland brush control we've done, and the installation and development of these fences that we've been looking at today. As money and funding becomes available, we will probably do a little bit more work on this project. We're trying to identify more areas to put these V-mesh wire diversions in so that we can have more of this floodwater that impacts Carlsbad spread out and slowed down and help with our vegetation for our wildlife. When we started this project, we wanted to be as minimally invasive into the landscape as we could. So as you can see, we still have some catclaw growing right beside this fence. We had a front end loader, a dozer, come in and scrape as minimal a track as we possibly could so that we could put these in without getting in the way, with removing as little of the woody vegetation as we could. So you can see our fence is very close to the catclaw right here, but we did have to remove some of the brush, which you can see piled on the other side of the fence right over here. And with the rains that we've had a tremendous amount of grass growing in the area, so you can tell that what little scarring we did do has healed itself within 1 year's time. You can tell by looking at the fence that it's not perfectly straight, and that's because we followed the contours of the land as closely as we could to keep our elevation the same the entire height of the fence. We have nice turns, and that actually helps with turning the water and slowing it down and spreading it out, because water tries to go in curved patterns. When water is healthy, it doesn't flow in a straight line, and so we try to keep the water flowing in curves down the entire length of this fence. moisture held in this area is evidenced by the extremely high cured out grasses that we have right here in this part of the structure. When we did this in November of '09, these grasses were not anywhere near this abundant, and we have more than one species growing here that's headed out and made seed, and we'll have seed stock for the next year when we have rains again. This fence, you can tell really how long it is from this vantage point. We have our one end over here, and you can follow it all the way down to the other end over here. You can see the entire area that this fence is slowing the water on. Basically every high point from right over here to the end of the fence is being impacted by this fence and the water being slowed that's running off of these hills. When these structures are full in the event of a good-sized flood event, you can see from over here at the very bottom of this playa, that's where we started out with our first diversion that we looked at. And should the water reach the top of that diversion and this one, it would basically look like a two-tier lake out here. The water would come up basically to the bottom of this fence and then back up again another 18 inches high, back up into here where the grade would make it stop and run around the edges of the fence. Well, that's our second diversion we've looked at. Now we'll go and look at the last two of the diversions. From here, we're coming up on our third of the 4 structures that we have here in the area, and the tremendous amount of vegetation that's grown up around it. The grass wasn't nearly as tall as the fence was, This is the smallest structure that we have in the project. This one's 273 feet long. And it's also shorter than the other structures. In order to get it at the length that we needed to cross the entire draw right here and to keep with the elevation of the surrounding area, we had to make this one about 14 inches tall, the entire length of the structure, so it would hold water still and not back it up into a different part of the draw and thereby ruin the integrity of the entire project. Service come out, and he contracted with us, and we had a crew of BLM firefighters who were on their 2-week leave come out and help us put these in. Each one of these pipes are Schedule 80 pipes that have been driven into the ground 36 inches. And these T-posts are 5.5 foot tall T-posts that have been driven straight into the ground until there's only 18 inches of them out of the ground. This, without the equipment that we did use on this, I can't even imagine how long it would have taken to install these fences. It would have been actually probably impossible to do if we had to dig holes for all of these. Our guys took from November 9th of 2009 till November 12th to put in these 4 diversions, and they were full 8-hour days, 9-hour days each day that we put these in. It was very labor intensive, and probably the most arduous of all the tasks were tying these wires to these posts once they were installed. Each one of these posts is double tied in 3 places the entire length of every one of these structures. And this is the shortest structure in the whole project. It's 273 feet long. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our look at our Avalon and Alacron Watershed Improvement Project that we've been looking at today. This has been one of the many projects the Carlsbad Soil and Water Conservation District does for the improvement of our entire community, not just our rural areas, but our urban ones. Our next talk will be on the Black River Biomass and Erosion Control Project south of town. Hope to see you then. is something pretty impressive. This is January, and we have evidence of a toadstool that's been growing upstream of this fence, which is a lot of evidence of retained water, moisture in the soils here because the fence has held some of this water back in the area. This is pretty awesome to me.